I just got off the phone with someone who is running one of the largest TikTok agencies out there, and I recorded the whole thing. We just spoke about TikTok ads, organic, collecting content, and how he sees most people, like 95% of brands, get things wrong with TikTok. So either if you're running ads or doing things organically, check this video out. It's gonna help you a lot, and let's jump right into it. All right, guys, welcome back to Ecom Street. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we cover all things e-commerce, and we're just obsessed with TikTok and D2C. If you're an existing subscriber, welcome back. Glad to have you here today. I'm here with Zufian, who runs a TikTok ads agency and also collects content for brands. And we're just gonna go back and forth talking about the main mistakes he sees people make with their TikTok ads and how you can improve and scale profitably. So how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, totally. Great. And so to my knowledge, you guys kind of offer like two services combined as one. Like the first service is obviously like running TikTok paid ads, and the second is getting content for clients and then running the paid ads with that.
Yeah, so we do. It's more like it started out as kind of a UGC offer, but it's more kind of transformed into performance creative now. So we not only do we do content for TikTok, but we also do it for Facebook and Instagram as well. So like we'll produce some statics, we'll produce a set number of statics for every brand every month, or GIFs or like some stop motion edits, basic stuff that oftentimes performs really well, especially on Facebook and Instagram. And then we also have the UGC element of it, where we produce anywhere between 10 to 15 videos a month. And from that, we produce about 5 to 6 variations per video. So we basically give them like a crap ton of content if they're going to run the ads themselves, or I would say about 70% of cases, we run the ads for them.
Gotcha. And like, how would you say, like, if we actually get into like the execution side of things now, how would you say you've like seen most brands like successfully like collect content and stuff? Like what are some of the, because we've tried as well, and we've like gone down all the rabbit holes you can think of like Billo, B-roll, finding the UGC creators on Twitter. Like how do, like out of all those strategies plus whatever you're doing, like how can you say this is the best way to get content to then run ads with? Like how would you kind of see brands doing that?
I think the best way to do it is to build it yourself. I don't think there exists like a marketplace or like a one-stop kind of function where you can just and I guess also guarantee the quality of the content as well. Because a lot of these platforms, like they will have creators on there that will create a home run video for you, but they will have somebody who's just equally as terrible. And so you'll pay the same amount for a good video as you will for a bad video. And oftentimes that happens too much. And that's what turns a lot of brands on these marketplaces. So I think the real process takes place when brands focus in on building it themselves. And that might mean testing out a bunch of creators initially, maybe like a pool of 30 to 50, for example. For an individual brand, I think that's fair.
And you find them through Twitter and like Instagram, like micro creators kind of like reach out and ask?
Yeah, or just leverage what TikTok already has in terms of solutions around this. So like, for example, your brand, you create shapewear. There's a certain type of avatar that will shop for that kind of product. So searching hashtags or search terms on the TikTok search itself related to your product and the interest related to that is likely to find you creators that will resonate with the message and actually be on board with the vision, who probably ideally would be like target customers of yours as well. In which case, most creators will have an email in their bio.
Yeah.
They don't have it in their bio on TikTok, they have it on Instagram. Just reach out to them, let them know the brand, let them know, what you want to do. And the way we kind of position it is like, we're going to produce a set number of test videos with you for a certain rate. And if we see potential and if we see any growth as a result of the paid ad side, because that's what we really focus on, then, we'll double down and work with you in the future, either for us in case of more brands, but in your case, it might be just more videos on a monthly basis that we pay you for example.
And how much do their rates, like how much do you usually see rates fall at for like videos? Like does it get, obviously it gets cheaper as the packages increase in terms of videos, but where, like, when do you draw the line between too expensive and affordable?
Too expensive, I would say anything more than like $200, maybe even like $150, especially if it's a creative you've never worked with before. Anything more than $150, I wouldn't even consider on that kind of person. But it also depends on the complexity of what you're asking them to do. Like if you need them to go to 4 different locations and shoot, some B-roll here, some B-roll there, etc., then fair enough. There's some variability, but
For
generally
sure.
speaking, it shouldn't be, I would say, anything above 150. What do you think?
Cool. Yeah, I think the same rates. Like I think on average we pay 150. Again, our products are more like you just wear it in one room and record yourself. But yeah, I agree. If it requires more hours of their time, then maybe 250, something like that. It also depends if they have like a well-known name. Like if they're a bigger creator that has like an audience and people are going to watch your ad and see that person's face and know who it is, then maybe they have rights to charge more, or like for usage, for example. But usually 150 for like a raw 60-second clip is what we see. Okay, great. Like most brands can get their hands on some content if they have a budget. Now they have 10 pieces of content in their drive. They've made some ads. Like where do you start with making TikTok videos and then launching them? Like, how does that process look? Have you ever gone to an e-commerce website or perhaps bought something and at the end you've seen that question, hey, where'd you hear about us? Or hey, why are you trying this? And then you kind of fill it out. Well, that's exactly what Grapevine does. And it goes a lot farther than just that. Do you know where your customers are actually coming from? I thought I did, and then iOS 14.5 hit and everything went down the drain. I thought I was doomed, like most of us out there, but there actually is a solution. It's called collecting third-party data. You see, when you collect first-party data on apps like Facebook and TikTok, that's the stuff that you see in platform when reviewing stuff in Ads Manager. But since attribution is so poor, we need to use things like third-party post-purchase surveys to get even more insight into actually where our customers are coming from. I searched far and wide, and the best app that scratched my itch for this was Grapevine. The main way that we actually use it on our website is doing what I said earlier, asking customers where they came from. Whether it be TikTok, an ad, an email campaign, it's important to get this information to have a grasp on where your customers are actually coming from. Now, you need to ask yourself, why Grapevine? Well, first of all, it's built by high quality developers that actually know what they're doing. This thing blends nicely on the thank you page, so the minute customers check out on that thank you page, you'll see it right there saying, hey, how'd you hear about us? Or hey, could you refer us to a friend? You can get super creative with it, but Grapevine is the app to do this. And you guessed it, yes, takes 2 minutes to set up. So you go to the App Store, which is linked below, click that link, click install, you kind of design the stuff and ask what questions you want to ask, boom, it's live on your site. And of course, every single time someone fills out something, you're going to see results on where they came from, and then you can make better decisions saying, hey, we're spending a lot on Facebook, but more people are probably seeing our TikTok videos. Let's post more on TikTok or try Spark ads. That's the kind of intel that you need right now if you want to stay ahead of the game. If you are not using post-purchase surveys, you are literally missing out. Like you are literally behind the ball on your data, and e-commerce is a game of making data-driven decisions. So if you want to do that, check out Grapevine, link below, and let's get back to this awesome video. Thank you, Grapevine, for sponsoring this video.
Yeah, so usually the way we do it is we structure the video in terms of one brief, right? So there'll be certain B-roll clips and voiceovers and stuff. It depends on the product as well. But generally in the more kind of problem solution focused brands and products, which is generally the kind that we work with, you'll have a certain format that we follow, in which case the video, it is like version 1 format will be edited according to the brief. Yeah. We'll then run that within the ad account to kind of prove that concept and test it. If it doesn't work, then we have an internal kind of asset library almost that we use to create about 13 to 14 variations. We don't usually always do that many. We'll do like 2 or 3 at a time, but we have the capacity to produce about 13 to 14 variations with minor changes or tweaks to the script, the hook, the structure of the clips, the sound, the audio in terms of like robot voice versus human voice, right. All of these different things to try and turn basically a bad performer into a good performer. But generally speaking, like you edit something according to the vision that you had beforehand, and then in an ideal scenario it works first time, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, for sure. And then like based on all your experience, like all the clients you've run ads for now, like what do you see are some like, are there any like recurring patterns you see that just work well in ads that you start with a new client? Like if our audience is watching this thinking, okay, I have a tight budget, I can't test 100 creatives, but I can test 10. Like, is there any certain format you see working?
That's tough to answer because it depends highly on the vertical and the product and the brand. Like there's some where we won't even go down the road of like problem solution. Like one thing that we've been testing recently that has been performing really well is like short, maybe 5 to 10 second POV style videos. So like you probably see it on TikTok, they have like they'll put overlay on the screen which says POV, you did XYZ and XYZ happened, for example. And then within that, the actual visual of that will be primarily just a clip of like the customer finding the solution. So for example, if it's shapewear, it will be a woman going from perhaps not looking so good in a dress to looking as good as she wants to look in a dress, and simple POV text overlay on that. That's something that's been working really well recently. And then also like your general kind of problem solution works in a lot of cases, and it's a good place to start and iterate from. That's what I would say.
Is there a place you get inspiration from? Like, is it kind of just watching TikTok and seeing what works best there? Because that's what we've seen. Like, I think the best way to become a good marketer on any platform is just, you have to be a consumer, but you have to be a very like open-minded, like active consumer. So you're not going to TikTok just to scroll and watch stuff for fun. You're there to actually like train your brain on what kind of content works and triggers people, so that you can go then make ads based off.
Spending good amounts of money on Google, Facebook, your generals, but they won't be spending money at all, or they might be spending like a very small amount of money on TikTok, or I've done a test in the past and turned it off and kind of given up. So we kind of start from scratch, in which case we don't really go for like a fully fleshed out account structure at all. We go for primarily prospecting spend, depending on how much budget we have available, and we'll push it all through prospecting. It'll usually be one campaign, 3 ad sets in an AVO, maybe even more ad sets depending on the number of targeting types we have available.
For us, we see broad work. Like, my theory is like, if you're a bigger brand, like for example, that fitness brand you're working with 2 million Instagram, then it makes sense to go broad because your pixel has like tens of thousands of conversions probably. But I think if you're smaller and newer, like stacking the interests and going that route with, especially not so much interest, but the creator interactions and video interactions tab, I think there's lots of money to be made in there. And then eventually going broad. That's what we've seen in our ad account.
Yeah, 100%. I think it also depends on how niche you are as well. Like if you have a product, like we have, for example, a dating app that we work with, which is very, very broad. Literally anybody between the ages of 25 to 40 something.
One issue that we've talked about on this channel over and over again is like, you'll launch ads and things will go well for 2 or 3 days, maybe a week. And then it all starts to die down, and you know if you should just relaunch the ads or plug in new creatives. Like, how do you guys deal with creative fatigue? Like, you kind of mentioned how like you make like 13 iterations of like one video and just change like the music or the scroll stopper. Is that what is really combating you guys against like this algorithm of creative fatigue, or what would you say?
Yeah, it's quite strange because like Facebook, even like 2017, 2018, didn't used to operate this way. But there's something about the frequency that just, you'll see it in your ad accounts as well. Like, it's not something that's hidden. You'll see just like your frequency just starts to go crazy, even though you're not spending a crazy amount of money, and by no means have you exhausted your audience base, but for some reason it'll just go sky high, and I'm yet to figure out why. But what you can do to kind of combat that is, number one, which is like, I think in my opinion, especially if something's working well, your first point of call will be just to duplicate your ad or your ad set, just to run it under a new ad ID into the algorithm to see if you can still get some life out of it. If that doesn't work, then perhaps you want to look at making some iterations. And there's 3 that we generally go with in the beginning. The first one is to change the hook. So it might we duplicate to scale as well. So I don't really know how much I buy into like the learning phase thing of it. Because like even when I was running traffic on Facebook, it never used to be a problem. Like learning phase or no learning phase, like there could be clients who are just printing money and generating really good returns with that whilst ads are still in learning. But then obviously nowadays with iOS and all these different things, these signals that feed back to the platform and to Facebook and these platforms is quite important. So with me, it's like we duplicate to scale mostly, and we do a lot of horizontal scaling. So we'll find something that works.
So what metrics are you using to turn off ad sets? Like, how do you kind of determine when it's too unprofitable?
Yeah, mostly on platform data, I'll be honest. For some clients, we use Triple Whale as a third-party attribution platform. But to be honest, we haven't really seen a crazy amount of accuracy of reporting through Triple Whale either. Like, I remember a few months ago, people were saying, okay, TikTok is showing me like 2 conversions, Triple Whale will show me 10. And obviously, just because triple well shows you doesn't mean it's accurate. I mean, I could make an attribution tool that shows you a 6x ROAS every day. It doesn't mean it's true. And I'm not saying anything bad about triple well either, but that's just kind of how it is. So like we use mostly on-platform data and a little bit of third-party attribution to help. But generally speaking, once we get to like the 4 to 5 times our target CPA on an ad or on an ad set, for example, we'll kill it if it's not performing and then rethink things. Sometimes we might even change that metric to spend like 1 to maybe 3x our average order value, usually more than 1 time the average order value, to see if we can get performance out of it, even if the CPA is outside of KPI, which rarely happens.
Yeah, we're pretty much the same. I think most attribution tools, I think third-party data is becoming more important, like using a post-purchase survey and like seeing where things come from there. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Is there anything else that you want to touch on that I haven't asked you? What did I miss? Have you tried retargeting on TikTok?
Yeah, retargeting has been working really well. We've started rolling it out across the board on accounts that aren't new accounts, basically. So accounts we've had spending for 2, 3, 4 months. And retargeting is starting to work really well.
Should we target the impressions or more page views? Like, I think the impression retargeting is like the best.
Yeah, we use everything, and usually we'll stack it. So we'll generally stack everything from the website on top of each other. What we haven't had the chance to do, and I don't know if TikTok does allow this, but we tried figuring out a number of times, is like email list or CRM data, because of you can't upload lists for some reason.
It's very hard. They're slowly starting to. Like my account rep actually let us do it last week, but it's we uploaded like 40,000 people and got like 1,000 people matched. Like it's very hard for them. So it's not very good, but I think they're working on that, which, yeah, because back in the day on Facebook, that was like one of the best strategies. Like was running like the CSV lookalikes.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I'm eager to test, but generally speaking, impression/video view retargeting works really well. And so does website pixel audiences, because that's just the nature of it. But they've had like I remember when we first started testing them back in like March, April, they didn't perform at all well, versus now we see like 2 to 3x our prospecting ROAS on the bottom funnel campaigns, which is, really good for a blended ROAS perspective, and allows us to continue to feed spend through the prospecting without worrying about so much about profitability.
Solid. Yeah. Okay. So someone's made it to like the end of this video. How do they kind of take everything that we just said and execute? Like, would you say go get 10 videos and structure them based on what you see on the For You page and just launch? Or like what's like the main like step-by-step thing that you'd advise? Because most of them listening,
first of all, who are they? Are they a brand or an agency?
They're all brands, drop shipping or D2C brands.
Okay. The first thing I would do is go back to the basics. Like before you even get onto TikTok and look at hooks and all this stuff, look at your product. And oftentimes people don't look deep enough into their product and perhaps what their existing customers are saying about their product to find marketing angles and things that they can leverage. Like I speak to so many brands that, when we ask them in our onboarding questionnaire to send us their reviews and even their customer support tickets to figure out what specific pain points and kind of hang-ups people have when it comes to purchasing the product. And usually those answers we get from the customers are completely different from what the brand will tell us as their most relevant marketing angles. So then that is a huge kind of insight into what you should base your hooks and everything around. Another thing is like when people see, for example, TikTok maybe buy it and all these popular hooks that are going around, like not every hook is for your brand. You need to find the kind of specific hooks that can be reshaped and modeled to fit your brand, but making your brand focus on every single popular TikTok hook is not the move. I think finding what's more relevant for your product, your avatar, and your niche is a lot more effective, especially if you're going to spend money to create videos. You want to make sure it's as targeted as possible, and the research that goes into it beforehand is really kind of bang on in terms of dealing with the exact thing that your customer is looking to solve, because you have a very short amount of time on TikTok as it is. And then even the post-click experience, like unless you're driving traffic to like, really cool landing pages or high converting landing pages and stuff like that, you'll struggle to be profitable if your message doesn't resonate properly from the outset. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, cool. We're gonna wrap things up there, but yeah, once again, thanks for jumping on. If people want to find you, is Twitter the best spot for the agency, for everything questions related?
Yeah. Twitter is literally the only online presence that I have. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, same pretty much. I mean, kind of YouTube too, but cool, man. Yeah, this has been great, and I think that a lot of people get value from this. So thanks once again for coming on, and hopefully more people can kind of launch and scale ads now, because I think Facebook is dying down. I think TikTok is becoming the next Facebook, and right now we're in like that early stage of ads where like arbitrage will be big, and it's only going to shrink as time goes on. So hopefully people got value.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. If anyone does have any questions, hit me up on Twitter. I'm happy to respond.
Totally. Okay, cool, man.
All right. Cheers, bro. Bye.
Cheers.